today marks a year since Bola Tinubu was sworn in as president of Nigeria. A year ago, the big issues on his plate were the economy and the country's chronic insecurity problems. But a new survey of Nigerian citizens, timed to coincide with Mr. Tinubu's first year in office, suggests that more than 80% of Nigerians are dissatisfied with the current state of affairs and feel the country is headed in the wrong direction. That national survey was conducted by the African Polling Institute, an independent, non-profit and non-partisan opinion research think tank. Its executive director is Professor Ihua, and he joins me now on the line from New York. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. Just tell us more about this survey, because looking at the top line, it suggests that hunger, poverty and dissatisfaction are trailing President Tinubu's first year in office.
Thank you very much, Charles. Precisely what the data states. I think I need to put out a caveat that we have been conducting surveys and polls for several years. This is not the first one we're conducting. Of course, those who have followed our track records know that we've polled President Jonathan, President Buhari, and now President Bola Tinubu. So we are doing what we need to do as the barometers of the nation, capturing the thoughts and the opinions of Nigerians on issues that affect them and giving them an opportunity to be part of democracy and for their voice to be heard. So yes, this current national survey was a survey we conducted across the entire country, and there were four major themes for the survey. So the first was to assess the feelings of Nigerians and what they thought was the current state of affairs in the country and where the country was headed. The second was to assess what the biggest personal challenges Nigerians are facing and their personal economic circumstances at the moment. The third was to assess, to appraise the president's job performance as well as the job performance of other major organs of government like the Senate, the House of Reps, and the judiciary. And the fourth was to also, speak to the future of Nigerians, to ask them, in spite of what you feel, what hopes do you have for the future, and what hopes do you have for President Bola Tinubu and his cabinet to be able to address the issues. So to speak on briefly on the first one, in terms of how Nigerians feel, just as you said, our data shows clearly that 84% of Nigerians said they are really sad about the current state of affairs in the country, as against only 5% who say they are happy and 11% who say they are indifferent. In terms of direction, 81% of Nigerians we interviewed said the country is currently heading in the wrong direction. Only 9% stated that the country is heading in the right direction. So that gives you a sense of how they feel. And in terms of the personal issues they are facing at the moment, hunger is the top line, followed by inability to meet their basic needs, unemployment, and heightened insecurity and electricity outages. And that goes on to describe why, when we ask them how would they approve the job performance of President Bola Tinubu, 78% of citizens said they will rate him abysmally, very poor. And this consists of 49% who scored him very poor and 29% who scored him very poor.
And obviously, Professor Ihua, people are going to people will dispute polls. They always dispute polls in Nigeria because they say they worry about the sample. Can you give us a sense of the sample that you used and the methodology briefly?
Right, thank you very much, Charles. The sample for this national survey is 3,996 in total. In terms of the methodology, we used an in-person, face-to-face household survey method. So we visited every single state in Nigeria. We visited, our enumerator visited 3 local governments per state in order to be able to capture the 3 major the 3 senatorial districts in each state, and to be able to capture the urban, semi-urban, and rural areas. So we can say that the data is an even slice across the urban, the semi-urban, and the rural. In addition to that, it's a household survey, so we met people in their houses, to conduct this survey. So this survey is in the past, we've had questions of people saying, oh, telephone surveys, this and that. So we decided this time we'll go and do it in person, face to face, where they live. And this is what we've done. And this is the data that has come out of it.
And I suppose if this survey is to be believed, and I mean, there's no reason to doubt it, I suppose the underlying point here is that people are questioning the role of their politicians and are questioning whether they'll be able to bring change to their lives.
There are two really underlining points for us, Charles. One is the fact that policy reforms, or whatever the government says to be doing, at the end of the day, the common man translates policies to food on the table, clothes on their back, a roof over their head, money in their pockets, and a job to keep them busy. These are the essential basics of which the average Nigerian measures whatever policy reform or whatever policy is put in place. And this means that government policy should focus on making these essentials possible. So hunger, how can they solve the hunger issue? How can they solve the inability of persons to, citizens to pay their bills? And how can they solve the issue of scorching poverty? My enumerators, told me that the level of poverty that they've seen on the field has been unprecedented.
Right.
Secondly,
very
Charles,
briefly, because we're out of time. I'm really sorry about this. Briefly.
Secondly, Charles, on the field, we have observed a growing mass of people who are disgruntled, are angry, are mostly unemployed or underemployed. And these guys have become some sort of social crusaders within the communities that they live in. All they are waiting for is an opportunity to vent their anger on either fellow citizens or the state.
Okay.
So government to be aware that there's a growing mass of disenchanted, angry people out there.
Okay. Professor Ihua, I want to thank you very much indeed for joining us. His African Polling Institute conducted that national survey, and Professor Bell Ihua is its executive director.